meeting. Where are we? March meeting. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, members of the public and staff and councillors. I'd like to commend Councillor Williamson in particular for being here today and not watching your nephew at Eden Park today. I think it's a real measure of the man and your commitment to the district to be here, because certainly it's a very proud moment for you and your family, so we could pass that on to your family.
Thank you, Worship.
Apologies from, are we okay? We're on, we'll go. Apologies from Councillor Harvey and Councillor Truman. Councillor Stewart is here. Perhaps for absence for Councillor Harvey and Truman, I will for that. And secondly, Councillor Ackling. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Councillor Stewart, just for lateness, she'll be here shortly. Okay, yeah. We do, it's a fairly full agenda, but I don't want to quicken the job up, but, it is a special moment in our country's history today for you sports fans, so I think it's to be a little bit considered with the commentary today. Very much appreciated. Item number one.
Chelsea's in the final there today.
Can you hear me now? Yes, sorry. Do you want me to start all that again?
Always hear you, no, it's fine.
Okay, just make sure everyone's got their microphones on. Confirmation of minutes, council meetings. Item number one, the ordinary council meeting and the extraordinary council meeting. Could I have a mover for those minutes, please? Yes.
There was a comment in there that relates to me. I know Councillor Harvey's not here for me to discuss that with her, but I'd like to, if possible, reserve the right for our next meeting that I get to raise those issues with regards to comments and emails, with regards to Yvonne Westerman.
Sure.
I'd like you to be here to discuss those.
Okay, cool. Yep, no, that's fine. We'll take a note of that, Councillor Cousins, and you can have that right next time. Any other matters arising? Councillor Jollins.
Just on 1/1, on point 1, PricewaterhouseCoopers, there was going to be a subsequent report presented to us following a workshop at the end of February. I was just wondering where we're at with that.
We've recently received their proposed changes to the Treasury Management Policy, which we're working through. We're going back to them to say, are these acceptable? And hopefully for the April Council meeting, we'll be able to bring forward the rest of it. Thanks.
Councillor Park.
And just a point to note, I've already mentioned it to Shani, the EGLT meeting that I'm listed to attend is actually the same one as Councillor Bernard attended, being the Great Opportunities Update, not the SME meeting. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other matters arising? Councillor
Mr. Chairman, on 1/4 there's mention under the Chief Executive's report, the seal extension project figures on page 7/17, which was the page last month, would be checked against budget. Has that been done? It's on budget, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Lewis. Okay. Councillor Cousins.
Sorry, could be wrong. On the page 2/5, it just said the Mayor and Councillor Harvey weren't at one of the meetings. You aren't mentioned there, are you? 2/5 says present, but there's no comment for you or Councillor Harvey.
We're not doing two yet.
Oh, sorry, I got him.
Yeah.
No.
Yes. Council 1, the extraordinary and the council meeting.
Oh, sorry, no, I got it here, sorry.
Yep, that's okay. All right, I have Councillor Jollins.
Sorry, just on 1/12, on the motion at the top of the page, it's not indicating who moved and seconded that motion?
1/12?
That's in the full minutes, so that's okay? All right. Okay. So that's over the transfer, yep. All right, any other matters arising? Okay, that being the case, could I have a mover, please? Thanks, Councillor Jollins, seconded by Councillor Park. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those carried. All right, item number 2, we'll move these on block. Any matters arising from these minutes? You had one, Councillor Cousins?
I did have one matter arising with regards to the arising from the Turangi-Tongariro Community Board meeting, page 2/22.
2/22.
I had raised concerns in the meeting about the quality of the paper that pertains to item 6 there. Mr Green and I have had some dialogue. I don't want to make a meal of it or point fingers or anything, but I do get worried at times that if we question a paper, that we have a right to question a paper, especially when we feel facts aren't necessarily as they should be. And Councillor Stewart can back me up on that. A couple of things that are in that paper aren't correct, and we just want to note that the paper wasn't written with the facts in mind.
Right, do you have a...
vague for all of you that were at the meeting. Just there was a paper in regards to the motor traffic garage. We had some concerns about safety issues. The paper was provided to council, to community board members to make a decision on. There were some facts were in there were correct, others weren't so. And when it was raised, if the didn't feel the facts were being represented correctly, staff believed that they were, but both Councillor Stewart and I stand by the fact that some of those facts were in there.
What about the view of the community board? What was the view of the whole committee? Did it get fixed on the day, or...?
Yeah, we voted unanimously for a resolution, but the end result doesn't justify the delivery. If the facts weren't in there, the facts weren't in there.
Right. I think what Councillor Cousins is referring to is in the paper it said that the garage owner had complied when staff had approached him about where they were parking, and that is true, he did, but only for a short time. They had to keep going back and getting him to keep complying, and I know for a fact that when I drive past, if staff have been there, he is complying, and then he slips back again. I think that's what Councillor Cousins is referring to.
Okay. Any other matters arising from...
During the Audit and Risk Committee 2/8, there was the question at that committee meeting in regards of annual leave, etc. The minutes indicated that management had procedures in place to reduce individual leave balances. I'm just wondering what they are, what has actually been done. It may be a repeat of what we heard, but I just can't remember. Maybe the CEO might be able to...
Yeah, well, as a matter of routine, we monitor staff leave, and if staff leave gets out of control, we have a management plan in place with those individual staff members to bring leave within acceptable limits.
Okay, you can't tell us what the plan is. Is that part of the...
Plans are different for each individual staff member. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, any other matters arising? In the case, could I have a move for those minutes? You received, thanks. Thank you, Councillor Stewart. Seconded by Councillor Hickling. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Item number 3, Chief Executive Report.
Sorry, Worship, I apologise. We had the Taupo Community Board meeting, which I attended in Turangi the other day. I'd just like to say how impressed I am with this presentation that's going to be taken to the Community Board Conference this year in regards of the Best Practice Award. It's one of the most professionally put together documents that I've seen, and I wish the Turangi Community Board well in that, and congratulations to staff for doing it.
Thank you, John.
Yeah. And no doubt a copy will be available to anyone that may. I've got one if anyone wants one in my office. Okay, item 3, Chief Executive's Report.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through the Chair, I'd like to take the item as read. There's quite a lot of work that has gone into the report, with plenty happening since the Christmas break. There's a lot of good news in there, but happy to take questions.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Councillor Krastowski.
Yeah, I have one. The first one really is a big thanks to you and your staff for actually getting the reports out 2 or 3 days earlier than we used to have in the past. And when they're particularly large agendas, it's very, very useful to have those extra 2 or 3 days. So thank you very much for that. And if you can keep that up, it would be greatly appreciated. And we're just commenting on the first 2 pages.
Just whatever, yep. Just call the page out if you could.
Okay. Yep. The other point that I'd like to raise was the Watahanui water treatment plant. Councillor Boddy and myself attended a meeting there on Friday afternoon, which was rather heated and passionate at times. And as a result of some of the comments made, I wonder whether we could entertain the thought of taking this particular item out of the long-term plan and addressing it on a separate issue and a different timeline.
Through the chair, I think because of the way the long-term plan is structured, we can deal with the Waitāhanui issue on a separate timeline, as we are dealing with all the water issues on a separate timeline. The issue with Waitāhanui and the long-term plan is more around the funding. Do we allow the funding to remain in the plan or not? Our recommendation during hearings and or following deliberations will be that you do leave the funding in there, but also to inform you and to request your permission to continue with that consultation exercise with the Waitāhanui community, so that when we reach a particular conclusion we can then make a decision on the funding, but it is in the plan if we need it.
So just for clarification then, do we need to make a resolution then extracting that particular part of the long-term plan and to have it separate?
No.
No, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just on that matter, while I was there, I had not the intention of going to that meeting because I didn't know it was on. I believe it was to be part of the neighbourhood event that was on that day, and I think so many people turned up they went into the hall, so effectively if I hadn't been down there I wouldn't have known it was on, but I did sit in on the meeting, and you guys come in for a bit of hammering at times, but I think they handled it pretty well.
Yeah, apologies too, Dennis. I arrived about 5 o'clock and I went to where the sausages were, so... but anyway, sorry, if we'd realised what was going to happen, I think in hindsight we would have been there to back you up. So thank you, councillors who were there.
I just want to say that the staff had been preparing since the Monday for an event such as that. We had been putting information together on the basis that we felt there would be potentially a strength of feeling down there. I think that's a good thing. I think it's more often that we get nobody turning up to a consultation or no feedback, and when we get that we have to embrace it. And I think as staff we've again worked this week to develop a plan moving forwards, and I think it's a really positive thing, and I'm sure we'll come out with a good outcome.
Thank you. Councillor Park.
Oh, thank you. Just for my information really, we do have the capital expenditure projects pages, like spreadsheets, but then when we go to some of the financials, there are projects listed like cycle strategy implementation, Hook Falls lookout upgrade, etc., that don't have their own spreadsheets as such, and I was just wondering why we have CapEx project updates for some and not others.
As far as I'm aware, that was a scale thing, was it, guys? I think we just highlight the top number of projects that are actually of significant scale. The rest we just list the projects.
We've always said as well, if there's a specific project that you want to be listed, let us know and we can make sure that we include that.
Councillor Cousins.
Just on page 3/8, regards to the organisation, just talking to Councillor Stewart at the moment. It says it's finished, but I don't think it is. There's a key announcement of the storyboards, etc. Is there an update on through the chair, correct, there are the very minor finishing touches to go on the storyboards at the top of the post in particular. John, I understand they're on track at the moment, aren't they? They will be...
Clips. Are they clips?
No, they're not clips.
We're working with Turangi-Tongariro on those, so there's been a few changes in there, so it's slowed the process up a little bit, but we're still we're on track with those.
And secondly was 3/10, Will might get an answer. It says two further senior business mentors have been added to the successful district mentor program. Is there any idea how many initiations there's actually been with mentor to business owners, or do you know?
Thanks for the question, Councillor Cousins. Look, I don't have those off the top of my head, but it was covered yesterday with Fritz, and I think from memory, and don't quote me on these numbers, I think they've got something like 30 mentors, and I think there's been around about 20 interactions, but if you refer back to the 6-month report they gave, that'll give you the most recent one.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Councillor Jollins.
On 3/2, under financial performance, under the heading Bellwave spend, actual year-to-date and variance, there's quite a difference in some of those figures. Just asking the question, are there any schedule or delivery complications here that are contributing to that variation, please?
My understanding of that issue, and one of the gentlemen across to my right may wish to add more detail, but that revolves around resource consenting issues, not being able to get the relevant consents for an infrastructure project.
So if you look at page 3/35, you'll see that the major variances are, as the CEO referred to, in the wastewater and the water areas. And Mr. Lewis, one of those resource consents has been in the wind for how many years now? At 8 years.
So I guess I asked the question in terms of are there any risks for us? Just when you look at those top line figures, it's quite a variation.
Thank you, Councillor Jollins. Any other?
Just a couple, Your Worship. 3/7 in regards to the Motorova wastewater plant, it says proposed savings from other existing projects will meet the additional funding requirements. What are those other projects that the savings have come from?
Through the Chair, refer you back to page 3/35, where there's a schedule of wastewater projects, and it's largely within those projects.
So it's a combination of the whole lot?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Chairman, could I also ask on bar 317, and I may well be wrong on this, in regards to the seal extension from Martia Road, it states the budget's 148,000, and I thought in February it said 402. I may be getting my roads mixed up.
Werrito Road.
You were correct in both instances. The 402 was the original budget for total seal extension for the 12-month period. 148 was the budget for the Martia seal extension, and that cost, the Martia Road was completed about the 7th of March at a cost of 128,000.
Okay, but it's got here that it's completed in April of this year.
That's incorrect. It was completed 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay. That's reason I raised. I couldn't work out how something is not complete till April, and yet we've got a final sum.
That'll be because the report was written in advance of the meeting, so it's a timing issue.
The last one did say actually March.
Yep.
Yeah, the report was written before the work had been completed.
Thank you.
On the case. All right, Councillor Williamson.
Yes, through the Chair, just on community engagement in 3/12, I sat in a leader and you group meeting a couple of weeks ago, and I just want to really acknowledge and compliment Helmut Hartane and the community engagement team on the work they're doing with the youth. It was the mentoring program with the year 12s from the colleges around the district. And last week, the week before, a group of us sat in, organised a meeting with the student council at Taupo College, and it was well received, and we're proposing to do that with the Tahara College very near future. So just...
So Helmut. Yep. Thanks, Councillor Williamson. Councillor Buddy.
Finally, Your Worship, I had a conversation with them in Hannah yesterday in regards to my concerns from last month in regards to full-year budget figures changing on a monthly basis, and I was briefed that I'd probably get a report today.
Okay, the one that Councillor Boddy raised was in the CapEx, where the wastewater activity budget had dropped 250,000. The reason for that is that the wastewater control system project, which covers, as I say, those two areas, was sitting in that budget, in the wastewater budget. We've moved it to the investment budget where the normal IT CapEx comes out of. So you'll see that the investments full year budget has increased by 250,000 and the wastewater has dropped by 250,000. It was just really a misclassification of an activity, and to make it consistent with what the actuals will be, we did that particular change to the full year budget.
So effectively then all those other ones such as investments have changed, other capital expenditures have changed, so we can expect full year budgets to change on a monthly basis?
No, that was a one-off. All those other full year budgets, because I checked it yesterday, are in line with the 14-15 annual plan.
Yep, which got here, yep.
Yep.
Metal
And so
acceleration.
the only changes was the 250,000 being switched from the wastewater to the investment in respect of that control system project which Council approved at the last Council meeting.
So then, tomorrow then, the figures that I'm looking at now, not tomorrow, next month, they will be the same.
Correct.
Thank you.
Councillor Park?
Oh, no, it's okay. Thank you.
All good. Okay. Thank you, Mr Williams. And officers, can I have a mover, please, that Chief Executive, Councillor Cousins, thank you. Seconded by Councillor Jollins. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Carried. Item number 4. Business accountability documents received. Chloe.